and welcome to my review of Soulless, Ray of Hope. Not a well-known game by any means, but it just so happened to be on sale for $1.09, which just so happened to be 1 cent less than the amount in my Steam wallet. How convenient. Soulless, Ray of Hope is a puzzle platformer made by indie developer Frisky Fatal Games. According to their Facebook page, Frisky Fatal is made up of two 18-year-old game devs from Serbia. Soulless is the only game they've created so far, and gosh if it doesn't look the part of an indie platformer. I don't mean to be dismissive of what this dev team has achieved, especially at such a young age, but this looks like Limbo if it had colors with a little bit of Nihilumbra thrown in. You play as this thing called Ellen. No, not that Ellen. Or that Ellen. It's spelt with an I. And I have no idea how to explain this game's story, so I'll just give you the blurb from the About This Game section on the store page. You follow the Ray of Hope in a world of darkening silhouettes as you help Ellen save his friend and face his darkest fears. But it really doesn't matter to me, and I'm gonna show you why in a moment. This thing, that is, the Ray of Hope, I suppose, leads you out of a house and into the world of darkness and puzzles and stuff. The controls are simple as can be: arrow keys to move, space to jump, and E to interact with various objects. And it's very early in the game that the story completely stops mattering to me when we come across a note. Is this the only way indie games know how to tell a story? Now, before I say anything else, let me clarify that I'm not really mad at this game for doing this, but I've been thinking about this for a long time, and I really want to say something about it. It's a bit of a tangent, so skip to this time code if you don't want to hear it. I'm fucking sick of having to find notes in games just to get the whole story. When did this become a thing? When did having the player find notes that explain the story in bits and pieces become better than just telling a fucking story? Is it Amnesia the Dark Descent's fault? I don't understand why I have to keep seeing this, and I'm not talking about little collectibles that give you some insight into what a character is feeling or the slightest bit of backstory. I'm talking about games where you won't have a fucking clue what the story is unless you find these things. Is it some kind of trick to make players more focused on the game? Like, pay attention, dumb shit, or else you won't know what the fuck is going on. You'd think after a game like Slender the 8 Pages, where finding notes is literally the only way to beat the game, that little trend would die off, right? But no, it got even worse. Remember Gone Home? Walking around a house finding notes and objects to figure out where the main character's sister went? Yeah, there was no reason to make that a game. This interesting and emotional story of a young girl discovering her sexuality and trying to deal with her parents' homophobia and eventually running away to be with the girl she loves would have worked really well as a movie or a book. But hearing this story secondhand through journal entries and various things found in a house while playing as a character we know practically nothing about, way to kill a fucking narrative. I'm so done with hunting for trinkets just so I can know what happened. Okay, enough. I'm sorry, back to the game. A few minutes in, you'll get wings, which is pretty cool. You can't really fly with them, they just extend your jumps, and all of a sudden I'm having Pony Island flashbacks. But hey, that's just a neat little coincidence, and I kinda liked Pony Island, so this is fine. Throughout the game, you'll also run into these various characters. There aren't many of them, and they don't really do anything, but... Oh, wait, no, they represent the 7 deadly sins. Okay, first of all, boo. And second, alright, maybe there are some religious themes, what with the idea of sins and all, but hey, it's not like I'm trying to defeat Satan or anything. Are you serious? Okay, point of issue. This game seems to be very influenced by other indie games. Nothing wrong with that, after all, everybody is influenced by something, but Soulless is pretty much taking its story elements and visual aesthetic from other games. This leaves gameplay as the only real thing that can set it apart, because if I want a platformer with simple art that is disturbing at times, I can play Limbo. If I want one with shadowy figures and colorful backgrounds, I can play Feist. If I want one with a good story, I can play Thomas Was Alone. So how does the game play? Well, it plays alright. As you travel through the game, you'll come across various puzzles, none of which are particularly difficult. Some of them might take a few tries to understand, but I never got stuck at any point, and if I could manage that, the average player will probably breeze right through it. The sections I found that presented the most challenge are where you're sucked through a door and get chased by hands. I found these sections pretty fun and even creepy. Like, look at this, you're jumping on bones and shit, there's spikes everywhere, these hands are spooky. It's just about the only part of the game that feels really unique. I mean, the rest of the puzzles are basic. Move this block to get to a higher platform, put a thing on a button to hold a wall up, mess around with portals that change gravity, and put another thing on a button but upside down this time. The chases are at least exciting, but that's about all this game has to offer. My first playthrough took me barely 2 hours, but there are 3 endings, so I guess some replay value can be found in seeking those out. Although, rather hilariously, a bug in the game that was later patched out actually prevented one of the endings from working. I don't know why I find that so funny. It reminds me of the time when I got a bad ending in Asagao Academy, and instead of showing the ending, the game glitched and cut straight to credits before it was over. In the end, Soulless Ray of Hope is a painfully average platformer. It looks beautiful, it has some neat puzzles, and there's a deeper, darker story hidden within it. And there are about a dozen indie puzzle platformers that have those same qualities, but are better games. Unless you see it heavily discounted, I wouldn't recommend buying it. You know, I feel kind of bad dissing this game. It has a few things going for it, but I think the only way it could have impressed me is if I hadn't already played Feist, Limbo, or Nihilumbra. But hey, for an indie dev's first published game, it wasn't bad, and maybe Frisky Fatal will make some better stuff in the future. They definitely have potential. I'm running out of ideas. I mean, I could just keep going on like I'm doing, just making review after review, but I want to do something different, like maybe a top 10 list, or maybe a video about games I remember from my childhood. I don't know. I'm open to suggestion, really. So, if you want to see what's next, subscribe, and the next review will be posted soon. I promise. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.